Imagine a game that combined elements of True Detective, King of the Hill, and the Da Vinci Code. A world of faith, lost children, subconsciousness uploading clinics, secret stairwell handshakes, ditch-dwelling prophets, parking lot sleuths, incel cults, robot companions, eldritch computer nodules, and the pull of guilty obligation cast against the burning glow of refinery fire in the polluted bayous of dystopian Louisiana. Now you might be intrigued, or maybe you're asking yourself, what the hell kind of game is this? Well, this is NORCO, a 2022 point-and-click indie adventure game by Geography of Robots, a studio composed of just a handful of developers. NORCO was born out of the devastation caused by the 2005 Hurricane Katrina disaster, and a multimedia documentary the team began back in 2015. A documentary which included the original draft of the game itself, a side-scroller about a robot trying to break into a refinery. NORCO, in its finished iteration, puts players in the shoes of Kay, a 20-something-year-old drifter who spent the last few years wandering the roads of America witnessing faction wars, empty homes, and cracked asphalt. But Kay has come home to NORCO, Louisiana following the death of her estranged mother, Catherine, a sort of every woman with a seemingly secret personal life who serves as the game's secondary protagonist. NORCO is a game of 3 acts, each divided between Kay and Catherine as you progress, with its story, as far as I'm willing to share, focused primarily on the nature of a mysterious light Catherine saw while investigating rumors of weird construction going on in the swamps. Construction Catherine believed to be done by SHIELD, the local oil conglomerate who owns most of the town of NORCO in the game's present setting. But SHIELD is not the only one interested in the light or what it may mean, with a mad prophet known simply as Pawpaw, the head of a cult of teenage boys known as Keener John, and a living supercomputer known as SuperDuck, all vying to unlock its power and potential. Kay, on top of trying to piece together everything following her mother's death and the theft of her mother's possessions by SHIELD, also searches for her brother Blake, an addict who has vanished from the family home sometime before Kay's return following their mother's death. Beyond this, I will try not to spoil too much more of the story, but I may reference things that, if you're interested in playing, could be considered spoilers. If that's the case, I recommend stopping the video right now, and I say this because NORCO is not a long game, perhaps maybe 8 hours if you were to do absolutely everything possible without making a mistake and locking yourself out of something. It took me just over 7 hours, and I got about 2/3 of the trophies in the game if you wanted like sort of a reference. Realistically though, it's more likely, and how I suggest you should play, that you'll fumble your way around this strange world as Kay and Catherine, alongside their host of colorful companions in search of answers, as the hilarious mixes with the downright depressing. Like a cat who erupts through the ceiling after you pet it too hard, juxtaposed by a mother coming to terms with the fact that she will never see her daughter again. How sometimes solving a puzzle with a prayer feels like a moment of prayer unto itself. Prayer and faith are integral to the plot of NORCO, with many references to God and his divine purpose key points to its plot. The player can decide to believe or disbelieve as the army of Garrett's followers of Keener John attempt to ascend to heaven with his dubious teachings, or as Pawpaw regales the tales of your family's alleged blood ties to Christ. Will they sway you one way or the other? Well, that's not for me to decide. But the truth is, as someone who grew up with religion, I was struck not only by its imagery, but with the question while playing as I watched different people put their faith in God, their family, their ambition, or their greed. And the question, or questions, are these. Is it better to believe in something, to have a guiding hope or dream that you can look to, or to believe in nothing but yourself and your own ambitions? Is your road more important and valuable singularly, or is it better to benefit the collective? NORCO is not simply a philosophical exploration of faith, but also the absurdity of modern living, or I guess postmodern living. In what other game can you, with the aid of your overeager ditch-dwelling prophet, go to a random bathroom in the middle of a quiet moonlit park and harvest psychedelic urine dust from a men's restroom to give to a teenage boy calling himself Garrett so he can see God because the thought of dealing with other cult members bums him out? Or a game where you convince a man to buy decade-old hot dogs so you can learn a secret knock to a door that never had one? What other game balances these with a puppet show about an alligator asking you to choose between killing a fisherman who killed its child, only to discover that the fishermen themselves are taking vengeance for their own dead child that the alligator ate? Or the realization that in your wandering to find yourself out there in the streets of America, you lost touch with everything that made you who you were now, and, like so many people coming back home, you're a stranger to the place that made you. This is the power of NORCO, its ability to turn that absurd and serious mirror with effortless ease, a talent games like Disco Elysium and Pentiment, 2 games I love, have become famous for. And yet NORCO, and by extension games like 2013's Kentucky Route Zero, have remained relatively obscure to most gamers. This despite the fact NORCO was actually nominated for a Golden Joystick and a Game Award in 2022. Sure, the gameplay might be simplistic, it's a point and click after all, which one could argue does contribute to some of its obscurity, yet I think it does enough with the format to differentiate itself. Now, beyond its narrative merits, and it has a lot of those, NORCO is also it's a beautiful game. The pixel art, the character designs, they're all simply phenomenal. Everything feels almost slightly out of focus and eerie, almost uncanny in that way, like looking at the world through the lens of a cracked CRT screen that's sort of blurred along the edges, which the rounded corners of the UI definitely suggest that we're doing. Or the way light is used to portray different times of day, the rolling clouds, or oil tanker moving along still, probably polluted waters. The dark of an empty house surrounded by a refinery on all sides, or the almost uncomfortable clean shrine of a mall turned cathedral. The way clutter is arranged or described, and the fact that much of it, even if it never contributes to anything in the story, is interactable, creates a world that feels plausible and lived in. The characters likewise go beyond caricature and feel like people you'd run into on the street, although perhaps you wouldn't want to run into all of them. But the overly joyful salesman, the drunk detective hiding a surprising amount of competence under his mildewy surface, the smoker conspiracy theorist who appears everywhere you least expect, the robot with the mysterious past, they all come together to create a wonderful world that deserves much more attention, I think. Lastly, the soundtrack too is surprisingly good, with heavy synth and bass adding to the moments of strangeness and hilarity effortlessly. It has an almost neo-noir feel with just the right amount of funk when necessary. This paired with the sound design, which features the cooing of insects and the rush of cars on the interstate, or the creakings of the swamp, all come together to create an atmosphere worthy of being praised in this small team's debut game. The whipping of the wind on the back of a motorcycle, or the way new thoughts enter into your mind map, a sort of catalog of NPCs and clues you get as K throughout your journey, and that little ping that indicates new additions is almost euphoric in a way. It's hard to define, but I found the sound design to be quite pleasant and really added to the world in a way I think could be easily overlooked. Even just the way the NPCs talked, which was this sort of jibber jabber older games used to use, and newer indie titles seem to have brought back, gives a lot of personality to the different individuals without having to overly commit to voice actors, and even manages to create tension when needed, which is impressive. But I don't think I want to spoil too much beyond this. NORCO is a game I want people to play. I want you to get wrapped up in its mystery and its wonder and immerse yourself in this world as I and many others have. It is an experience that, while short, I imagine you will want to come back to and see not only what you missed, but what you can change or make better, if such a thing is given to us. NORCO is $15 on Steam and also has a free demo of Act 1 you can try, and that's the entirety of Act 1 by the way, before deciding if it's something you might enjoy. Geography of Robots is also currently working on their second game, Silenus, which, while early in development, appears to tackle similar themes to NORCO, but perhaps it's too early to say. It's autumn now. The skies are stone gray and mist rests lazily around the browning hills and chilling rivers beyond my back door. It's a time of year I tend to revisit games that evoke this melancholic and introspective season, games like Disco Elysium, Pentiment, or Night in the Woods. Games I could, or perhaps even should, review. Pentiment in particular I've already planned to, but this channel has grown into something more than I could have ever imagined. At the time of recording this, I have just over 20,000 subscribers, something I never thought possible. And with that great privilege comes the burden of ensuring that the videos I put out are not simply meeting a quota, but are generally something worth posting. Though I plan to cut down to just 2 videos a week, videos like this being the rare exception, I do not want to promise any more reviews like this for a while. I think I've made the mistake of perhaps being too impulsive when it comes to my video planning or polls, and would like to correct that going forward. I'd like to think NORCO, this game of introspection and philosophy, was a catalyst to these recent changes within myself and within this channel, but who's to say? As always, I want to thank my channel members for their support, in particular Paladin members at the time of making this video, Dwayne the Rock Lobster, Valadar, Dunyal, Zora Luigi, and Candriff. Your support means the world to me, but I appreciate all of my channel members equally. Thank you all once again for watching. As always, I'm Soul. This has been a review of NORCO, and I will happily see you in the next one.